We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy. And if you profit off of hate, if you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
Okay, so Mark Zuckerberg is looking to make changes on Facebook, Instagram, messaging, and WhatsApp. So what's all this about? What's the sudden change in Mark Zuckerberg's heart regarding free speech? I wonder what it is. Based upon the news today, and today he comes out and he makes a 5-minute speech as to the importance of free speech. The importance of having social media being an open platform where people like you and me can share our thoughts, can share our concerns, can share our likes and dislikes without much censorship. What is the change of heart? What made the difference? Could Mark Zuckerberg be playing the game of, hey, you know what? New sheriff in town? Well, let's go ahead and join in the ranks. Or could he be sincere about it? I don't know which way to take yet. I'm yet to see what's going to happen. I like to, watch and see first before I make any sudden judgments. But I would love to know what your take is. And you can always do that by placing those takes in the comments below. I want to hear what you got to say about this. I'm going to show you a few clips. Number one, let's show you a clip of the news taking this on and finding out what really might be the reasons as to why Mark Zuckerberg is going this route. Or the other one could be, well, what if Trump did not win? And what if Kamala had won the presidency? Would we have seen any changes in Mark Zuckerberg's movement? Right now, Mark Zuckerberg claims that, well, the Biden administration was the one that forced him to censorship speech. That could be true. I have seen it myself, where on Facebook, many of my posts, many of my videos, many of my live videos that we've done were taken down, or they just don't show them. It doesn't get any traction whatsoever. I can have a live that I'm both streaming on Facebook and YouTube. And I look at my Facebook viewership, and it's about 6 people watching on my live. Now, as a content creator, I've got about 6,000 or so followers, but only 6 people can see the live. That's strange. Well, I know that to be what we call throttling, right? It's not really getting our live out there based upon the content that I'm presenting and based upon how many, fact checkers are out there. So today, January 7th, Mark Zuckerberg comes out and states that, well, we're going to get rid of the fact checkers. Goodbye, fact checkers. And we're going to do what X is doing. We're going to give community guidelines. Let the community speak. Let the community do the fact checking. I'm gonna have you see and hear for yourself what Mark Zuckerberg states about his new policies that he is going to be implementing before inauguration. But before we do that, though, let's take a look at what the news has to claim in this regard. Take a look.
A Fox News alert just moments ago. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, announcing a commitment to free speech online and a shift away from censoring all of us.
And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it.
The company admitting that they were pressured into it over the last 4 years under the Biden administration. Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley joins us now. Hey, Jonathan, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Ainsley.
Hi. What is your reaction to this, and why do you think they're doing this now?
Well, that's the most interesting aspect of this story. You know, I just wrote a book, The Indispensable Right, that talks about Facebook, Meta, and the social media companies. And we all love a redemptive sinner. It's just that it would be great if that occurred before you were caught. And we have a great deal of information now that does not really support the argument by Zuckerberg that they were unwilling partners forced into this by the Biden administration. They resisted calls from many of us for years to join Elon Musk, to reveal, for example, the Facebook files, which they resisted. They fought at every stage not to be transparent, and that finally collapsed. Now, that criticism aside, this is an important moment. You know, Musk has been out there taking these slings and arrows throughout this process. As the only social media company that went full in on free speech. Zuckerberg would be a powerful ally. It would be a wonderful change. You know, Facebook funded a really creepy campaign years ago, trying to get young people to embrace what they call content moderation, what some of us call censorship. And it really failed in a spectacular fashion. It would be great if Zuckerberg could join Musk and create this powerful alliance for free speech.
Yeah. So you heard that, you've seen that. Couple of things that Jonathan Turley had mentioned. One of which is the FB files, the Facebook files, right? I wonder whether or not if Zuckerberg will release those. Now that he's playing the alliance game, now that he wants to ally with, the new administration, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, now he wants to align with those guys. I wonder if he will go ahead and release those Facebook files. The other thing that I found interesting is that would he have a change of heart if he wasn't caught? A lot of things happened where he realized that, I made a few changes. I made a few mistakes. And he mentions those mistakes again and again in his own speech he made this morning. But I want to continue to let you see what they're saying about this. So let's go to the next clip of the next video so you can take a look at this.
Well, Joel Kaplan, he is Meta's Chief Global Affairs Officer. He was on with us, and this is what he said. I'll play a clip, and then we'll get your reaction on the other side.
There's no question that there's an opportunity here with a new president taking office, as I said, who really believes in free expression. And that's just going to give us the space to get back to those values that Mark has talked about for a long. Mark gave a big speech 6 years ago at Georgetown about free expression, about these values. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of political and societal pressure here and around the world that have pushed away from those values. We've got a real opportunity to reset, get back to them. There's a real opportunity here with President Trump coming into office with his commitment to free expression for us to get back to those values and really provide space for people to have the kind of discourse and debate they want to have.
Will it work, Jonathan?
Well, when I heard that, and this was a great interview on Fox, it was really sent a chill up my spine because it made me wonder, what if Trump wasn't elected? What if this was the Harris administration? I wrote a column earlier that the Biden administration was the most anti-free speech administration since John Adams. But Kamala Harris promised to outdo that. Mm-hmm. And you really wonder, hearing that interview, what they would have done if, in fact, the election came out differently. The public spoke very loudly. And so that's the reason I'm hoping, regardless of the motivation, regardless of the fact that it's belated, we need help. This is the largest anti-free speech movement in the history of our country. I talk about that in the book. It's sweeping over Europe. Free speech is collapsing in Europe. This is going to be the line of defense for free speech. We're it. We stop it here, or it doesn't get stopped.
And look what's happening in Canada. The liberal ideals are not working. We saw that yesterday with Trudeau stepping down, and now the Conservatives winning by a landslide. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ainsley.
All right, so you heard that, you've seen that. So let's get back to a few things that they pointed out. One, again, I mentioned this before. What if Donald Trump did not win? What if it was Kamala Harris? And you've seen the clip I played earlier in the video when the video began. So would it have made a difference, or would Mark have stepped out and said, you know what? We're going to make some changes? Because if Kamala had won, Kamala had already mentioned that she's going after people like me, people like you, many of us who are content creators, people like us who like to have the freedom of free speech. You know, there are things going on even in Canada. Do y'all remember the issue with the truckers in Canada when they fought against the COVID vaccines? And they were shut down by Justin Trudeau? Seems as which that all of this had came back to haunt him. You remove free speech from a nation and the nation crumbles. Now, many of you guys will go, but Larry, you know, free speech has to be monitored and this, that, and the third and blah, 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 blah. Notice I said freedom to speak, not freedom to hurt with speech. Now, people says, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I think that's all a farce and a lie. Words do hurt. However, we have to learn for our own selves not to let somebody else control how we feel. We have to learn for our own selves not to let what somebody says to us mess with our mind. Many of which we take on very hard. We are those that, you know, we will hear something and we would hold on to what somebody says. And especially if it hurts. Well, you are allowing the other person to control you by you allowing what they say to hurt you. Now, I'm not saying that things don't, you know, people don't get hurt and, you know, words don't hurt others. They do. But it is still our own, on our own volition, whether or not we accept it. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. So back to what I'm trying to say is basically there is freedom to speak. I don't believe in freedom to hurt others in speech, yet that does happen. And when it does happen, we have to be able to even control our emotion, control our reaction, and make sure that if the reaction is correct, that most times it's best to just walk away from a person who is talking nonsense, because 9 out of 10 times it ain't true and you don't believe it anyhow, right? So all I'm saying is, yes, now it seems as if freedom of speech is what's being fought for. And Mark Zuckerberg is making headway to work along with the alignment of Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and many others who believe in free speech. Now, I wonder what that would do for those like me who are content creators on Facebook. I wonder how the changes would actually be. You see, because when we joined Facebook back in 2015, I'm talking about as a content creator, when we can go live and, you know, put things out there, I wonder what would be the difference. Back then, they fought against Trump in 2015 and 2016. As a matter of fact, Facebook got harder with its restrictions and policies in 2015 during the first Trump administration. I wonder what the difference is now. Is it about getting paid or is it about being sincere? I don't know. I would like to hear from you in the comments below. Let's go and check out what Mark Zuckerberg has to say. I want you guys to pay very close attention to everything he says, because this will also help with the gospel that has to go forward in Jesus' name. Let's check this out. Let's see what he has to say for himself.
Hey everyone. I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right, and these are complex systems. They're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focus primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
All right, you seen that, you heard that. So let's go over a couple of the things that he's mentioned. I had to write them down a little bit here. Number one, he says they want to get back to their roots. Look, first, let me just say this. I kind of like what he says. It kind of sounds really good. And I'm kind of excited to see what's going to come out of this. Because all this does for a person like my platform and many other content creators, it opens up the doorways to tell the truth. And I'm happy that we can now tell the truth. I wonder what's going to happen if we ever had to get back to another pandemic. Yeah, I wonder, will we be able to tell the truth and not be censored? Anyway, few things that he says. And that's, again, you can respond to that question in the comments below. Few things, though, that he stated. One, getting back to the roots. I didn't know that they had roots. I thought their roots were grounded in, DEI and all of that stuff. But he mentioned that they need to get away from DEI and get back to just being normal, common sense people. I like normal, common sense people. NCP, normal, common sense people. I like that. All right, so he wants to get back to that. He says that, and again, I have to look at my notes here. Community notes is what he wants to do, just like X. He wants to get back to making sure that we get rid of all of this fact checking and get to community notes, making sure that the community are the ones that are putting in the correct data and information. Now, do you know that the most people who cry misinformation and disinformation are the ones who are doing it themselves? It's amazing how he stated that the mainstream media, back in the first Trump administration, flooded everyone with mis and disinformation, even malinformation. And they want to get rid of information. The more and more that we know, the more and more they get upset. They don't want us in the know. And John Kerry will let you know that. Take a look at this John Kerry clip.
And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact have kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go, and that people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick, and has an agenda, and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So What we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change. Now, obviously, there are some people in our country who are prepared to implement change in other ways, and
so
that's
you're
really
questioning
dangerous.
really if democracy can survive unregulated social media.
I think democracies are very challenged right now, and have not proven they can move fast enough or big enough to deal with the challenges that we are facing. And to me, that is part of what this race, this election is all about. Will we break the fever in the United States?
All right, you seen that? You heard that. So back to my notes. So he says that all of the U.S.-based content reviews are going to be done now in Texas. They're moving it to a more diverse state, taking it out of California, which California is not really a diverse state. California is a one-track-minded state, okay? And yes, okay, you may say, well, Larry, California is blue and Texas is red, but Texas has more diversity in its ideology. So that's where it should be, in Texas, because of its diverse ideology. And I'm speaking based upon the fact that there's a lot of different, there's a melting pot, even in politics, in Texas. So that's a great place for it to be, where it seems to be a little bit more unbiased, so to speak. But it's amazing to me how all of this is now being changed based upon an administrative change that's coming. And again, he wants all of this done before the inauguration. Wow. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know your comments below. Because based upon what you heard John Kerry stated, John Kerry is stating that, we need to get rid of free speech so that we can have the power to do the things that we want to do. And oh, by the way, we'll give them what they need to hear. That's what John Kerry is stating. Basically saying that freedom of speech is destroying democracy. But I thought that in a democracy, you have freedom of speech. Do y'all see this twist and how they're twisting things? Again, per John Kerry, we need to get rid of social media. We need to get rid of freedom of speech. To have that freedom to speak your mind, we cannot easily deceive, trick, hoodwink, those who are hearing us. The more our citizens know, especially what we're doing in the background, the worse it looks for us. So in order for us to gain control, we need to win elections where we can force the changes. That's what he's saying. And it seems right now there's a battle. Again, when you get rid of free speech, when you get rid of the freedom to speak, all of your other rights will be taken from you. Remember that. All right, guys, let me hear what you think about this particular discussion, this particular video. Share your comments below. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. You will see all the other videos that we have right here, right now. All right. And don't forget to join our membership. We have now started a new membership, and videos like this and many others will be a part of our membership for members only. Good things to come. Hope to see you guys soon. God bless. Stay blessed. Happy New Year.